Hi everyone, delonewolf here and welcome back to the Sunday Recap, my weekly vlog where I talk a bit about my last week in games, and as always I played a bit of EVE Online every day last week. Especially in the first part of the week I managed to do a bit of exploration in the Explortress. I am using the Ortress a little bit more at this point to try and focus on combat sites, and also because it is basically a Tech 1 ship. It is faction, but that means it counts as Tech 1 for some of the gates, and that means you get to do a little bit more than with the Ishtar, and potentially you can get some good drops from some of those easier sites as well. I was pretty lucky early on. I got a site with like 70 plus million in loot, and that does give you a pretty good feeling if you can start out the week like that. Basically makes up for a lot of effort, or it also gives you an excuse to take it easy for the second part of the week, which is also what I did, going back a little bit more to transporting more stuff from Hakshma to Amar, focusing on the large components and the minerals that I still have left there, which is titanium and pyrite. Those are going down substantially in price, so I'm not selling at the moment. We're hoarding our minerals, and of course we'll see how things evolve, but I'm trying to basically get everything consolidated in the trade hubs so that I can actively trade, sell and buy at the right time, and try to see and be prepared for what's coming next, because that's basically I think what everyone is waiting for at this point, especially with CCP announcing an increase in the cost for the subscription for EVE Online and for Plex packages. In EVE Online, we're all looking at FanFest at this point. I think it's going to be super important to see what CCP is planning to do for the game and how they're basically planning to justify the increased price that we'll have to pay. They will have to come up with some sort of a value proposition, I believe. We have no idea. I have zero idea as to what's coming, and also considering the announcement that was made here, I'm not sure if we'll get like the majority of stuff in dev blogs before FanFest itself. Perhaps CCP now does want to make like a little bit more of a splash for FanFest, and so keep some of the important stuff for like the keynote itself or something like that. We will of course have to see. I'm kind of hoping for an expansion this year then. That's like the absolute bare minimum. If it's longer than that, I think it's just too long to justify the large sub for a lot of players, not necessarily for me, but for a lot of players. So I think that's basically the minimum. What would be like for me the absolute mind-boggling, amazing thing would of course be if there's a lot more to show and some concrete data on the shooter that could have sort of a sandboxy feel as well, and that would then be included in your sub. That would all of a sudden make a lot of sense as to why we're paying 30% extra on a monthly basis if it basically becomes 2 games. But we'll have to see, of course. That's very, very speculative, and I think the chance for that is basically almost zero. But we will see. It's a little bit like how Blizzard came out with WoW Classic and basically said if you're paying us for WoW, you also have access for WoW Classic. So I don't know. I'm really curious though, and this just makes me more curious and looking forward to what CCP will announce at FanFest. Other than that, the passive stuff, I still have to, I think it's today that I have to run my next set of jobs for the BPCs. So these are selling pretty well, of course, considering the announced changes with industry for larger ships. So freighters, but dreadnoughts, which is what I've been focusing on creating at the moment, are selling really well, and I'll have some data I think next week as to what's happening with the prices there. On the PI front, it's a little bit of a different story. You may have seen that on EVE Talk, but coolants are going down quite drastically. Someone mentioned in the comments that it is because water consumption across the board should go down substantially. That's interesting to see. One of the very base production cycles, just creating aquid liquids to water is actually something that was nerfed enough to then have an impact across the chain, but rising prices are basically not that easy to find anymore in PI at the moment, so I'm probably going to switch back to a bit more of careful selling and some hoarding as well for some of the PI that I make. But yeah, overall pretty good week for EVE Online. For a lot of players it's bad news that prices are increasing, but I myself myself am keeping an open mind, and I want to see what CCP announces at FanFest before I make a judgment on all of that. That brings me to a second game that I've been playing a little bit, and it is Vampire Survivors. A tiny little game, was like €3 or something like that to buy it, but I saw a couple of people playing it on stream, and it looked actually pretty fun, pretty casual, and that's exactly what I got. Honestly, this is something you can jump in and out of it pretty easily. A full game basically can take like half an hour, maybe a little bit above that, but really half an hour is generally the timer to aim for, and then death comes in and crushes you. It's actually surprisingly addictive, trying different combinations of the weapons, trying to then get their upgrades, because that's absolutely vital that you evolve the weapons that you pick up, which requires certain combinations. But then you can feel super powerful, just blasting the whole screen, picking up all of that XP and becoming stronger and stronger, and eventually, of course, getting into the grind, which I think is done really well. You can basically earn gold by playing the game. That then allows you to get some boosts, unlocks characters, and so you do have a lot of replayability for something that basically takes half an hour or something like that for every session. You know, if you want to just go for a single game this time, all right, that takes about half an hour. So a pretty interesting little game, and you know, if you don't really know what to do, like me, I'm basically waiting for news on EVE Online. I'm waiting for news for the next Path of Exile leak, and then Longer Horizon. I have one eye on Total War Warhammer 3, but I'm definitely waiting for a sale on that one and a couple more patches until they fix some of the problems that I've been, that I've seen people mention, and then we also have Starfield, which is should be coming November 11th. That one, yeah, keeping an eye on it as well. Definitely not pre-ordering, sorry, Bethesda, but we are going to be careful on all of that stuff. But that's basically everything that I have on my radar for gaming, and so I don't really always know exactly where I want to pour more time into, and so that's how I came to Vampire Survivors. Just a tiny little game, no disk space required, cost is absolutely negligible. I mean, getting 3 hours of out of that game is like next to nothing. You can easily do way more, and it's actually pretty fun. Just requires a couple of movement buttons, and that's basically it. So yeah, that's something that I have been playing a little bit and enjoying as well. And that was my last week in games, guys. Thank you very much for watching, and as always, I'll see you next time.